religion. So you can see how interesting it has been categorized.
I don't think they read the paleo.
I think that people may ask actually Andy Wong to say something about this, because I know you have been involved with this idea inter-Asia and so on, and actually you are the math head between this symposium. So I wonder whether you have anything to say about this, or your teacher's new book.
That's always the case. Anyway, let me begin with an anecdote, and then I'll just briefly explain what the whole point is of having this symposium is about. And actually, I think there are a lot of interesting people down, here in present, so it'd be nice to open the floor further. But anyway, I'll give you an anecdote first. The one converted person in Chinese history that I know who would be the most interesting, also the least interesting, would be Chiang Kai-shek, who was converted into Christianity because he married his wife. So there's some part about love there, quote unquote, right? So in a way, I think what conversion brings up, in rough group is really this opening up to, first of all, the element of faith, which in a certain sense you might put love in there separate between, but also the possibility of appropriation, right? In a kind of the more kind of familiar colonial terms, that religion was taken in not so much for its own sake, but for something else. The obvious example being in Alibaba's book about how the Indians would take the Bibles not to read, but to do whatever else they find relevant in their life. So given the context, I guess education is also very crucial and also kind of everyday conversion experience in the sense that what is being converted is not only the student, but also vice versa in kind of teaching pedagogical process. The always being converting part is also equally important. And I get to know more about that because I now also begin my teacher's life, teacher life. So in that sense, I think it's important to open up the discussion to a sort of pedagogical level, which is also one of the points that we brought in Guy and Shoujuan. Both of them were working here in a kind of pedagogical sites. So I just want to kind of give that sort of background information and hopefully to hear more from everybody else. Thank you.
Down here again. See, I also see when you're still learning, as my two respondents pointing out, I think it also involves the process of, there's a word that Edward Said used, and I think he got it from Gramsci, it's unlearning. That I could spend my whole life unlearning the American Pacific, the wrong ways to frame it. So part of the relearning or still learning, in other words, you historically and genealogically have to unlearn certain frameworks. So, yeah, so I like that Shinkai-shek example. Yeah, so Yiping, Yiping Liang is there. She actually told me, you Americans think of your titles are too long. You didn't like the Henry torn from the stomach, converting, unconverting, blah, blah, blah. So when I was thinking of a new title, when they asked me to do it, I did think, I remember, your title, you said it was too long and too complex. So I tried to come up with something simpler.
He and Shoujuan say that as commentators, we are expected to raise questions, otherwise people would think that we have not read the books closely enough. So my comment is really based on this acknowledgement that I have not read the book closely enough. It's purely last moment. As I borrowed the book, I ordered the book, but I have not got the book, so I borrowed a copy of the book from Shoujuan and took a quick glance of the book. So, I had some basic understanding of the book, but I have not read the book closely enough. So I guess my understanding of the book is that it's very autobiographical. As Xiu Jian has put in her comment that this is a life work of a scholar who is sort of, taking a look on his life work over the last 40 years, work of 4 decades. So I agree very much with that. I guess from your earlier book, the Sublime, the American Sublime about American technology, and the 1995 High Point, the co-author with Eric Durr about Asia Pacific as the culture, as the regional cultural production, and the relearning, unlearning of the Pacific, which I'm referring to the American imagination, the one, and then to this one, so I figure, if we took this particular convergent book as a new addition to the lineup of a life work of 40 years, it seems to me that one key thing is this importance, which in the new one you term this as U.S. American poetics. But I think this is very much a poetic based on geographies, the interplay between space and the place, as I can understand through my really sketchy impression of your work. Then I really like Xiu Jian's questions, the question that she raises in her comments, and I think I can raise one question. One thing that comes through my not closely enough reading of Professor Wilson's new book is this desire for the outer space or the outer national space, this desire for this going away an outer space, an eccentric space, a place of eccentricity, this outer national space. Reminds me, however, very much so, this older generation of American studies scholarship on the colonial encounter with wilderness in North America. Of course, we understand that was back in the 17th century with a whole bunch of European, all sorts of Europeans. And the key phrase, in reflecting on that historical encounter of vast wilderness in North America, we have this key phrase which is out and errand in the wilderness. Reading not closely enough of your new book, I get this impression, however, this is very much an out and errand in the Oceania.
I think that's good.
In one way, you are trying to argue for just the opposite, from convergent to counter-convergent. But my not closely enough reading of the book gives me the impression that, the core of your work still very much follows up on this desire for an outer space. That's, however, at the core of 17th century colonial Americanists. This is very much my impression. I was trying to see how I can put this into sentence forms, but I left it there. Then the typhoon hit us, right? And so it was good that I didn't think about your book for 3 days, and I was late this afternoon because I was